Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Maikel Michiels. He is a personal development mentor through his content creation. His lessons are rooted in his own journey of overcoming depression and rebuilding confidence after years of bullying. And now he is a dedicated mentor. He teaches the life changing strategies he wished he had learned earlier. Welcome to the show, Maikel.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, AJ. It's great to be here, and let's go and provide some value for your audience.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Michael. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We will understand from you, learn from you how to build, overcome low self-esteem and rebuild confidence. That we'll learn from your journey. So, if you can tell us a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience learns better who they are listening to.
All right, yeah, perfect. I think context is really important for literally anything personal development related. So, the backstory here is that when I was in high school, I was just being bullied all the time. Like, I had basically zero resilience mentally. So, whenever someone would make one joke, I would literally just break down and I would cry. And as a result of years of bullying, I had no confidence, no self esteem. I had very little social skills. And I had a ton of limiting beliefs inside of this thing, my mind. I just felt horrible about who I was as a person, about myself, about anything. As a result, I became depressed for some time. And at some of my lowest moments, I even thought about just, ending it all. Luckily, of course, as you can see, I didn't go through with that. But at that moment, I also had this higher voice within me speak up, where it said, you know what? No, you are not the problem here. It is those bullies who are in the wrong. So don't go through with this. You can become way more than your bullies could even dream of being. And that was at the time when I was like 16, 17 years old, something like that. And through that, I really started on a journey of personal development that has lasted about 15 years now. And it's probably going to last until the day I finally die, hopefully in like 60 or 70 years or whatever.
Right, Michael. So I want to understand, uh, that what sparked your this personal growth journeys. Bullies are bullies; they are everywhere in every situation, and people face it, and several people are able to move away from that. Several people are not. So I want to understand your that particular moment, that particular incident, if there is any. What led to your, the growth, that spark that created your growth towards personal growth.
I think one of the first things you really need is to have a clear vision moving forward for your future. So at the time, when I was being bullied, I kind of knew that I was the loser that I was saying I was. However, once I decided, you know what, I can do 100 times more than my bullies could even dream of being, that set my sights further into the future. And so I was able to cope with the present day moment because I had an idea of where I was heading. Of course, it was easier said than done. Lots of failures in that future as well. And I'm still not at the point where I really want to be in life. But still, that vision moving forward is what kept me going through all of these years.
Absolutely. And how did you? Okay, you had a vision. How did you get down to rebuild your confidence after years of bullying that you said that used to happen those days?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, one of the first things I always teach in my content is that you first need to have understanding of what is really going on inside of your own head. So, back then, I didn't have the confidence to really take action much, but I was always learning about how the mind works, about building confidence, about self esteem. And the more you learn about what your brain is really doing under the surface, the better you'll get at handling things. So it's kind of like if you have a car, you maybe know how to drive, but really it's the understanding of what is going on underneath the hood. So that once the car breaks down, you kind of know how to fix it. So that's the thing with a lot of people, I think. So many people, they are fine in life as long as the car just continues driving. But once something breaks, people don't have the understanding to know what is going on and how to fix it. So that's really one of the first steps that really helped me a lot in rebuilding that confidence.
Right, right. In terms, see, if I understand, you do not have a certification, you are not a doctor, you are not a therapist. So I want to understand then how do you get all this understanding of talking about these things with a high position, with a strong position, and creating content around that. Tell us a bit about your content so that uh, people know more about it in that sense.
Yeah, so I think what really helped me is that I'm not sharing just things that I learn in a book. I have spent like 15 years learning every single day, at least an hour. That's one of my oldest habits I ever had. And all of these things I have been able to overcome myself. So I'm not just talking through theory. These are the things that I've actually done to rebuild my confidence, to build habits, all of these things. And I think you don't really need to have the fancy certifications or anything, as long as you have the experience and the knowledge that is required. And I would say the best way to get that is through experiencing it firsthand.
Right, right. So how would you like to tell people about, the role of the mindset? How should they look at themselves, especially in the early years, especially someone who is on the in the teenage years or a bit younger also perhaps. But as you grow, how should they start looking at themselves? How should they start looking at the world around them? Even if they are not good or not so good, some are good. What would be your advice on this?
Phew, that's a good question. I can go like 100 different ways from this. I think one of the crucial things here is to start asking better questions because your mind it's very eager to help you. So once you ask a question, your mind basically just wants to raise its hand and give you the answers. But you've got to start asking the right questions. So, for example, if you knock something over and you're like, oh my God, why am I such an idiot? Your mind is going to present the list of all of the little beliefs about yourself of why you're an idiot. Whereas, you know what? How can I clean this up? How can I make this better? And you will get a different set of answers. So, one of the things that you can do here is whenever something like happens when that frustrates you or that you deem to be very negative, ask yourself, how can I make this into something better? How can I benefit from this? What is the positive impact of this moment? And what you're doing is now you're shifting from thinking about the negatives to thinking about opportunities. And the way you see the world is not how the world really is, it's how you think the world really is. And you can change that around by shifting your focus through asking better questions.
Right, right, Michael. So, in terms of, you talked about habits, at least you read every day. For the last so many years, you read at least an hour every day, maybe more, but not less than an hour at least every day. So, what is the self-discipline part? How would you like people to look at the self-discipline part? What other things that they can do to create a growth chart or growth trajectory for themselves in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are two, of course, there are more, but two main things that are very important. Number one, it is realizing that discipline is just like a muscle. If I go to the gym every day and I lift weights, my arms and my legs and my other muscles will get stronger. If I force myself out of my comfort zone every single day, eventually my discipline is going to get stronger. So that's the first thing. No matter what happens, you can always improve upon this. And maybe that is just a very rocky road. So if you maybe do something new for 7 days in a row and then you fall off And maybe the next time you last a week and a half. And the time after that, maybe you last 2 weeks. But that's still some improvement. So don't expect perfection, just expect progress. And the more you practice putting yourself through the uncomfortable things, the easier it gets over time. So that's one side. On the other side, it is about how you talk about yourself. Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm just not a disciplined person. How can I become more disciplined? But the thing is, if you keep telling yourself, I am not a disciplined person, that becomes part of our identity. It becomes part of who you are. And now when you try to be disciplined, your mind goes, whoa, 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 hold up. You are not a disciplined person. So your mind then sabotages your efforts. One of the concepts that I always teach is that you follow your words. So if you say, I'm not a disciplined person, I am a loser, I am not confident, people often think that they are describing their present day self, when in reality, those words describe the future. So in talking to both yourself and other people, try to use language that is growth based. Because if you feel down and out about yourself and you tell yourself, yeah, I'm a rock star, your mind is not going to believe that. If you tell yourself, every day I'm getting a bit more confident, every day I'm getting a bit more productive, now that is something that you can get yourself around and now you can improve. So those two things combined are what makes a huge difference in building discipline and really building any of the soft skills.
Right, right, Michael. So, where you are sitting at your position right now in life, do you think your journey of rebuilding your self confidence that is complete, or it is a continuous thing in life?
I think it's always a continuous thing in life. So this goes like two ways again. A lot of things are not black and white, but once you can combine both sides, that's when you really find a lot of meaning in life, I think. So on one hand, I still have a lot of goals in terms of my business. That's the part of this that I haven't yet figured out. But once I can make this a full-time thing, for example, then the goal becomes, can I 10x this? And once I reach that, it's probably going to be a goal even further out in the future. But at the same time, again, that contrast, it is also being happy about where you are at. So you need both ambition as well as gratitude, some discipline as well as patience. So once you can combine these seemingly opposite traits, then you've got a winning combination. But I don't think that growth will ever stop because that's more than anything what makes us really happy and fulfilled in life. Because if you hit a goal, you're like, yeah, I did it. But then a little bit later, it's like you standardize it and you're always looking for that next step moving forward. So I think it's a combination of both.
Right. So, what would you tell someone who is like restarting or starting their journey for self improvement? How do they get started? Do you make content around that? And what are the ways they should look at? bec- uh, when moments do not go their way. I don't want to use the word failure, but when it happens, they stumble, they fall, and then many people do not have that zeal to pick themselves up in the way some others would be. So I want you to understand, you to tell about all these things, to for someone who is just starting on this whole journey of, you know, living life in this in this difficult time, coming out of home and living life in the way it is.
Yeah, so one thing I know this is going to sound so cliche, but failure is just part of the journey. It is a stepping stone. So many people think, oh, I failed at this, so it wasn't meant to be. And people just give up like that. What I want you to realize is that you're going to fall down. You're going to fail. You're going to feel like, oh, do I really want to do this? Those are just moments that are part of the journey. They are the price of admission, so to speak. You've got to go through them. But once it comes to just moving forward, I try to always make things simple. Because the more complexity you create, the more difficult you make it for yourself to get started, the less likely you are to get started. So back in my first failed business, what I did was I was writing a lot of articles. And before I would tell myself, today, I will write a 2,000 word blog post. And then I never did it because it felt overwhelming. But then I shrunk it down. I learned how to build habits, and you do that by making it tiny. So what I did was I will write a 2,000 word article into, I'm just going to write 2 paragraphs. Much smaller task, much simpler, and much less resistance, so that there are fewer excuses possible, and I would get started. And now something magical happens. You make progress. Because once I sit down and I type 1 paragraph, and then 2, and then 3, and then 5, and then 10. And before you know it, because I simply got started, that article is finished. But you've got to get yourself the right mindset, the right environment, and the right conditions to just take that one single step. And once you do, the second and the third step are gonna fall way more easily after that.
Absolutely. There's much to learn and understand from you about all these things, Michael, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn from you, learn from your content. What is the best way for them to do so?
So one of the best ways to get my content would be YouTube, which is where I post the longer form videos, because of course social media, it is so tiny that it's not very useful. So that is just my name, at Maikel Michiels on YouTube, and you will find my content there. And if someone is really struggling with building confidence right now, I have a free masterclass on that topic, which you can get by going to maikelmichiels.com/confidence. Absolutely free, about like an hour and a half on building confidence. And we're going really in depth. So if there's something you're struggling with, go to maikelmichiels.com/confidence.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Yes, thank you.